Learn absolutely everything you need to know about pronouns in English. Welcome to English with Rupert, the channel that doesn't just teach you the easy bits of English, but all the hard bits too. This week we have over 50 rules for pronouns in English that you need to know to reach an advanced English grammar level. Let's begin with the basics before we go on to the more advanced features. I, you, she, he, it, one, we, they. These are what we call subject pronouns. Subject pronouns replace a noun in the subject position. For example, she is my friend. She replaces a woman and she is a pronoun in the subject position. So instead of saying Sarah was miserable, we could say she was miserable. Me, you, her, him, it, one, us, them. These are what we call object pronouns. Object pronouns replace a noun, but this time it's in the object position. So if we say, I'm looking forward to meeting her, her replaces the woman again, as it did with the subject pronoun, but this time it's in the object position. My, your, her, his, its, one's, our, their. These are types of pronouns that we can also call possessive determiners. If we look at this example here, it's my phone. My replaces me or I, but it actually refers to something else. It indicates ownership of another item. So my is a determiner before the word phone. It indicates that ownership that I have. Mine, yours, hers, his, ours, theirs. These are another type of possessive pronoun. With these possessive pronouns, they indicate ownership and they replace the noun too. So if I say, it's mine, mine is replacing I, and it's also showing ownership of something we already know about. Now, sometimes there's a little confusion about whether to use he, she, or it. Now, he and she generally refers to people. It refers to things that are not people, but there are some exceptions. Sometimes people use he or she when there is a relationship implied. For example, if you have a pet with a very close relationship, then you may call your cat or your dog he or she. Some people even do this with items they love, like she's a wonderful drive if you're talking about a car that you're very fond of. Or with boats, sometimes they're called she. What about one and ones? Perhaps you've not come across this. Well, don't worry because you probably won't need to. It's rarely used and it's very, very formal. It's associated with royalty in the United Kingdom. The Queen, before she died, often called herself one. It was a way of referring to herself without using I, but it's not used very much. And sometimes people are not sure whether to use he or she. If you don't know whether to use he or she, it is usually acceptable to say they or them or their, depending upon which pronoun you need. So that's the basics. Let's make this more advanced by looking at reflexive pronouns. This lady is getting ready to perform in a play. She's called Sheila. But before the play starts, Sheila prepared herself for her acting role by putting makeup on. So in the video, herself was the reflexive pronoun. Reflexive pronouns are myself, yourself, herself, himself, itself, oneself, ourselves, and themselves. We use these when the subject and the object are the same. So she prepared herself. She is the same person as herself. But what happened here was an activity happened that affected the subject. She prepared what? Herself. She prepared the same person as she. Sheila prepared Sheila. And to show that that's the case, instead of saying her as the object pronoun, we say herself. It shows that the action happened to she. They clarify who is being referred to. When we say she prepared herself, it means she and not anyone else. And it's not usually used as the subject, unless it's a header of a sentence. So we could use it here. What do you prefer? Myself, I prefer coffee. So here we use myself on its own, isolated, to make it clear that I'm only referring to my own thoughts. And we can use it as a subject complement too, to emphasize the subject. So she, herself poured the coffee. So she herself means definitely only she. I'm drawing attention to the fact that it's she and not anyone else. And they can also be used as a tail in the same way to say, from my perspective or someone's perspective. This lady seems unhappy with something going on. She'll probably say, I wouldn't do that myself. If it was me in charge, I wouldn't do what you're doing. Reflexives can also be used to increase politeness. Look at the two videos. In the left, you can see two friends. In this case, they say everyone is invited, including you. But in the right video, we're in a more formal situation. It's a work situation. And because they're talking more formally, the lady says everyone is invited, including yourself. Using yourself makes it more formal than using you. Here are some more things to be aware of when using reflexive pronouns. Firstly, they mean alone or without help in some situations. I did it myself means I did it alone, or I didn't have any help when I did it. Often we use by in this structure as well. I did it by myself. Both mean the same thing. Everyday actions only use the reflexive form when there is a need for emphasis. Look at the example here. Now my son is older, he washes himself. In other words, I don't do it. By saying he washes himself, I'm drawing attention to the fact that it's him and not what you might expect or what happened in the past. When he was younger, I washed him. Now he's older, he does the washing. But to make it clear that it's him and not something else, I add this reflexive pronoun just to bring extra emphasis. He washes himself. Get and have are often preferred to using reflexive pronouns in many everyday situations. For example, I get washed before I have a shave. Okay, that's enough with reflexive pronouns. Let's move on to relative pronouns. A woman came out of the house. She's the woman who lives there. So one type of relative pronoun refers to a person or people. And the main one we use is who. For example, the woman who lives there, who is the relative pronoun that refers to the woman. And we use this in a subject or object position. Sometimes we also use whom, only in the object position. You were asked, by whom? And whose is a possessive form. The man whose car is parked here. Here, whose refers to the man, but it also refers to the possession of the car. That sometimes can replace who. I met a man that lives there. It means exactly the same here as I met a man who lives there. But you can't do it in every situation, and I'll come to that later. A second type is relative pronouns that refer to a noun or a clause. For instance, which. This refers to a noun. A tree which loses its leaves. If I say, it's summer, which pleases me, when I say which pleases me, it could just refer to summer, but it could also refer to the whole situation. It is summer. It could be both here. And that can replace which in some situations. So if I say a tree that loses its leaves, in this situation it means exactly the same as a tree which loses its leaves. But again, there are some restrictions on how we use that, which we'll come to in a moment. What can also be used as a relative pronoun sometimes. We'll look at the difference between what and which, also coming up. Now, where, when and why are also words which are used to introduce relative clauses. But they are referred to as relative adverbs rather than relative pronouns because they don't replace a word, they add information to a word instead. So if I say the town where ancient ruins can be seen, here what I mean is ancient ruins can be seen in that town. So it's adding this prepositional information to the town. Or if I say, I'll visit at a time when it's not too busy, I mean it's not too busy at that time. And if I say, is there a reason why more people don't visit? What I mean is people don't visit. Is there a reason? There's also a third type, and that's words ending with ever. Whatever, whichever, whoever. Whatever indicates no restriction of choice and means any. Whichever also means any, but from a choice. And whoever can mean any person and there's no restriction of choice, but it could also be the person who. Here are some examples. With whatever, you could do whatever you want. You could do anything, no restriction. With whichever, you have three options. Choose whichever you prefer. So choose either this option or that option or the other one. With whoever, I don't mind whoever goes first. Here, there's no restriction on the person. It could be any person. But number two, whoever scratched the owner's car is in big trouble. This is the person who scratched the owner's car is in big trouble. Here are some other important rules for relative pronouns. Let's go back to that word, that. That can only be used with non-restrictive relative clauses. Have a look at the two examples to see what I mean. New York is called the city that never sleeps. That's okay. But New York, that is a city in the USA, never sleeps. That's not okay. We have to use which instead. And it's because one is restrictive and one is non-restrictive. New York is called the city that never sleeps is restrictive because it's a city, but we only know what type of city is because of the information that comes afterwards. What city? Oh, the one that never sleeps. Never sleeps defines or restricts what we understand by city. It limits it to one particular city. But in the second example, it's not the case. New York, that is a city in the USA, or should I say New York, which is a city in the USA. Here, which is a city in the USA doesn't limit New York. It doesn't tell us that it is only one type of New York because there is only one already. So this kind of clause is just giving extra information about New York. And when it's an extra information clause, which we also call a non-restrictive or non-defining relative clause, then we have to use which instead of that. We can't use that in a sentence like this. Now, what about using which or what? Usually, what is for general information, which is for specific information. Imagine this person is being interviewed. Perhaps the first question is, what's your name? What could be anything. But in the second question, which school do you go to? This comes from a range of possible schools. There's not an endless range of answers here. You have to choose only from schools. Also, who or whom. There are some reasons why we would choose one and not the other. And sometimes it's to do with prepositions. When a question starting who ends with a preposition, we can usually change it like this. So let's look at the first question. Who do you need to speak to? We can usually switch it by putting the preposition first and then the relative pronoun. To whom do you need to speak? And relative pronouns can be omitted in some contexts. Now, I have a long explanation of this in a video I produced last year called Advanced English Sentences. I've put a link in the description below. You can watch that and find out all about this topic because it's quite a large topic and it needs its own time. Now, the word it normally replaces an object, but there are some other reasons why we would use it as a pronoun too. Look what's happening in this video. Someone is spraying a wall with graffiti. Lots of people don't like this. And they might use it in the following ways. Firstly, as a preparatory pronoun. It's a shame they damaged the walls. This means they damaged the walls, which is a shame. So it is simply preparing some information that relates to the main part of the sentence. They damaged the walls. It's a shame. Also, we could use it as an empty pronoun. It's terrible. Why do we use it here? Well, this simply means the situation is terrible. So it doesn't have any meaning in itself. It just says I'm introducing a situation that exists. And here's some other interesting rules that you need to know about pronouns. Firstly, with to. Look at the 4 lines here. Do you want to come? Yes, I will. I will too. Me too. Now, what do you notice here? You notice that me is used in the subject position. And with certain words like to, when you're giving a quick answer, you can use I or me. Me too. In fact, you wouldn't normally say I too. You'd normally say I, verb to. I will too. I can too. But if it's just to on its own, me too. It's a quick way of saying the same thing. Also, as a second verb, after as or than, there are particular rules to follow. Look at the two sentences below that. I'd like the same as she has, and I'd like the same as her. What do you notice? After as, we have she has. But then in the next sentence, it's just as her. We have a situation where we have two things that are the same. I'd like what? The same. There's someone over there who has something. I want the same as that person. And when we are introducing the second verb, where it's the same, then we have two choices. Either she, the subject pronoun, before the verb, or we have the object pronoun on its own. Finally, each other, one another. And these both refer to something affecting both people. When we say we look after each other, that means there's two of us, and I look after that person and they look after me. It's the same with one another. If I say we care for one another, I care for that person cares for me. It's a reciprocal relationship. And that's not the end of this video. It carries on in my membership area. Underneath this video, click join, and once you become a member, you can get a lesson from me on reflexive pronouns, where you'll see reflexive pronouns in a real life text, get an opportunity to practice, and even send me some of your own writing for me to mark. Click join under this video now.